agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who is on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not a subject that is being raised. And I'm going to do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response. I'd like to respond. Let me ask that why did you successfully so that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on board?
First, let me respond to Super House.
Yeah, Trump ain't going for that.
And the people that do go, she's busing them and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as the rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here, you were Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television say here, the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager. I'm not taking this about the people on television saying that dog was eaten by the people that live there.
Yeah, you gotta listen to the people.
There's no evidence of that.
You're talking about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congressmember Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if you didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has a contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I get to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire, they should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you took a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you use the National Guard, you say things get out of control, you have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries, like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they're taking their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it. Because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people live in, and all over the world, crime is down, all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
As you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But by
They were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
thank you. I'll let you respond, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we need to do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with the same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fawley Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA of New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. Now, what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people to stop him.
Thank you.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. When they say Russia investigation.
We do a lot to
That went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Let's
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed.
Let's see if she answered it.
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as vice
She did not make that clear. She said Joe Biden.
breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase
That was an ugly ass smile, Trump.
that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president.
How you gonna answer all the points, but you talking about sexual assault?
That is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands that strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up.
What the hell is she talking about?
She's making him look like a bully.
I wasn't given $400 million. I wish you
But she didn't answer none of the questions. But only one she answered is about fracking.
That's what people wanted to hear.
They
And
asked
it's
her more than fracking.
a lie.
And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out where I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Is that sound familiar? Now, she went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate you guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, it's so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert. Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out in the Capitol that day, with officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered peacefully and patriotically. I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I asked, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She was the one to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? What are they going to be prosecuted? What are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, coming from all
He's spiraling.
over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it. When are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city.
All over the place.
People going to be prosecuted.
But let me just ask you, because you were the president, you were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Yes, I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally, or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me, it was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. But I want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
That's true.
It was about U.S. President, not former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on
He
that,
told the truth on that one.
the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand,
So I'm gonna ask for 10,000 troops to come so I can incite somebody to go do something stupid.
but this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys on the militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching,
She don't gotta say nothing about what she gonna do. This is just about bashing Trump. This is crazy. What are they gonna do for the goddamn country?
it's time to turn the page.
Neither one gonna do anything.
The rich too far for
They
you.
gotta start talking about it. I wanna hear what the fuck they gonna do.
Campaign for you to stand
Not gonna hear that today.
for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand
This
for
is a debate just to diss each other. This is
Yep.
crazy.
and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they had destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you get him out of bed, you wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the border patrol. Well, phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Because people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue of both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, and many times said you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, and you came up a little bit short. Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
I said sarcastically, you know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told that I got 63, which was what I got in 2016. You can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisper. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them.
They said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it, I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you, we have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by whisper, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he said will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us, we won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And we have a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom work with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate,
that here looks pretty good to me.
Over and over again, our court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about facts. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond.
Let me just say about world leaders. Victor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Victor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at the debate just a few months ago, that if he wasn't debate, he'd be running in Senate, he got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What he did, you talking about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand, but I'm okay with it because
Your time
I think we're going to do very well.
a lot more work.
Right now, it's the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, please realize what you added, quote, it matters how.
Try to set this thing up.
Uh-oh.
To set it up. I don't have
You said that 9 months ago, now an estimated 4.
Can you still see the people?
Yeah,
Hostages
yeah,
remaining.
I can see it.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children and mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and
Why is that our business?
proxies posed to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
if I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you ended up, and far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. There was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harrison says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is, it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in the highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just asked one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, has paid a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Now, so far, here's where Trump is making a mistake. He's falling into a debate trap. She's throwing target words at him that he knows he's going to react to, KB.
Look at this city that looks like these men of means.
She set him up perfect.
Financial affairs.
Instead of answering questions, he don't want to answer the questions because he's so triggered about what she's saying. He want to answer. He's starting off every question with, I want to respond back to what she said first. That's how you know you got somebody on tilt.
Let's settle it there. I'm seeing you use the words.
That's called keeping them on the string. That's how you're controlling the debate. Trump thinks he's winning the debate, and he's repeating the same things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. He's pitching high pitch fear. High fear. They're coming. They're gonna kill everybody. They're gonna blow it all up. Everybody's gonna die. You know, he's direct panic, throwing everything at the wall. And it's like she has more structure in her delivery. And you can tell somebody who's good at doing this and someone who's basically a novice. And that's Trump. He's a novice at this. He's going against somebody who's schooled in debating. He's very much a politician and knows how to use target words. She's lying about fracking. What she's not going to say is I'm against fracking. What she's saying is we want to put some revisions and some restraints to it. Her restraints that they would put on fracking and actual drilling would make them not be able to drill. So she's definitely going to be against fracking, but you don't say that. So everything she said after that was all kinds of her dancing around the subject.
The next time you're stuck in garden or get snooze, don't worry. 11 Live Morning News is ready for you. Download the free 11 Live Plus app now.
What does an opportunity
notice? She never ever goes into immigration. Never ever goes into why these immigrants are doing what they're doing. These violent immigrants coming into the country. She wants to avoid it at every cost.
These plans will raise costs and taxes on the vast majority of Americans. We need to be thinking about the future and how we make it better for families like yours. I'm Kamal Harris, and I approve this message.
Class, old windows can pull away from the frame, letting moisture in. But Window Nation triple measures every window for a customized fit so you can stay dry. Isn't that right, Aaron? Buy 2 windows, get 2 free. No payments for 24 months. Window Nation, the perfect fit. Friday nights are all about.
See you,
Because it's Team 1. It's all about high school football. Maria Martin hosts Team 1-1. Tonight at 11:15 on 11 Live, sponsored by Sun. Let's face it, the weather is always changing. You can't control it, but we can help you. Therefore,
Well, one of the main things that they want to do
to press our
and
team,
what you see
you need to know when you need
is
it.
entirely different.
Wins down dreams and power lines.
What he's doing is trying to say she doesn't have a plan, which she doesn't. Her plan is very limited, but because our plan is to follow whatever Joe had in place. They're gonna just keep the same thing rolling. They
It's
ain't
where we
gonna make
want.
no new changes.
It's not
But
the official.
she's hammering home the abortion. That's what's gonna hurt Trump more than anything in this whole debate. Him telling women what they gonna do with their bodies. That is a sticking point with women, and he is gonna lose even white women with that decision right there. That Roe versus Wade. Forget what the state want. The women don't like no man telling them what to do. And that's just gonna be his downfall. That Roe versus Wade is gonna cost him the election.
We're back for tonight's debate.
Oh, she's hammering that home. Damn, that's the host is like he's 89 years old.
Break down and how it could shake up the final sprint to election day. For now, though, let's go back to the debate live in Philadelphia.
All right, we're back.
National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Moore and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here. I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly.
I saw this war in 24 hours.
It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try to get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead. And it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president. Just to clear up, you're all out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or
I
no?
think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done. Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives
From being destroyed, I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to define one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with them American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you. And tonight, Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you an answer.
What'd I tell you?
We're sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow, quiet please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons, and he doesn't talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent him to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. Into negotiating as soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. But Vladimir Putin, can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen, for years we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying, one of the statements before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today in Capitol Hill honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agree with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be.
I think she almost called him a BAN.
Yeah,
The point of how he has consistently.
that's what I told you. Commander-in-chief, he ain't that.
Fallen
He's not a
soldiers,
commander-in-chief.
that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations.
Yes, thank you. So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force in Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than ever. We wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind. We wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Hell, she looked white tonight with all the makeup on.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. If you make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that.
I seen it too, Trump.
I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's just a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember where Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5, took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time.
Did you say you were black or
Tell
no?
me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the
I
American
told you
people?
she looked white tonight.
Regardless
I
of
thought he was
people's
debating a
color,
white lady. All that damn makeup she got on.
some dreams and aspirations, and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, Lindsay.
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, well, not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that she can't get away with that.
Yeah, she never said she was a black woman.
No, she didn't.
I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and then let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page and move forward.
Thank you. Let's turn the
President Trump, let's turn the policy plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President,
She has a plan to not allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else. That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to. No, the president has said something my signing to respond to.
I'm sorry, we can respond by time to what President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people, I have a lot of good people in this administration. We read about the bad ones, we had some real bad ones too, and so did they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. And make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I've run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if I come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better or less expensive. And there are concepts that
Yeah, I didn't understand that one.
Yeah, exactly. He don't have a plan.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely supported over the last 4 years as vice president private healthcare options, but what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time. When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, As I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act. We have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it. Vice President Harris, in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of
Mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It was all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to do. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance when you wait 6 months for an operation that you need to be.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, and particularly younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or is being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It did happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
I'll tell you like this, KB.
We'll continue after this.
Now, he just lost that one badly because he has no plan in place.
There will be But it is two kicks about the underdog.
Yeah, he got no plan in place for the economy or healthcare. This is what doomed him last time. He rolled off the Obama Act, said he was going to change it, never changed it, blamed the government for not changing it. Then he ran the whole election last time
I was
with
paying for
the
two
with
accounts over like
no
3 years.
plan.
I saw an app that shows all the monthly subscriptions you have.
Mostly everything he ran off of was already in place. Everything
University
else
of
he
Michigan
was
Global Campus
changing
is for real life. One that
and
values the
making a
contemporary
mess.
achieve. Earn up to 90 undergraduate credits for relevant experience. And
Now
get
the
support
Tariff Act was
to
doing one thing but changing another.
When my hair started to thin,
I don't have any hair left. After I gave birth, my hair wasn't even thinning, it was gone.
When I spoke to my dermatologist, he immediately pointed me in the direction of withdrawal. It's 100% drug free.
Now, the South Carolina representative Joe Wilson,
It's longer,
he
it's so much.
collapsed today.
It's so nice to be noticed for my hair after
So
I for so
I
many
don't know
years.
how big that's going to be in the election.
Farm.com.
But if all you're going to do is attack Kamala Harris, you're not going to, that's not going to win you the election.
Because every day is a
You
search.
actually got to make some points. Fracking is huge. You got to attack fracking and immigration. That's where he needs to attack the most.
To make middle class life more affordable.
And he's not drilling at all hard about how she prosecuted all these black people in the Bay
She'll cut taxes for the residents.
and how she put a guy on life like he was wrongly incarcerated and she withheld evidence to the
Pull away
police.
from any moisture in. But Window Nation triple measures every window for a customized fit so you can stay dry. Isn't that right? Buy two windows, get two free. Your payments for 24 months. Window Nation.
These are all issues he should have been bringing up.
Let's make your to-do list.
Everything you need to know before you head out the door.
Right now, he's doing a poor job of debating because he's so reactionary to anything. You
Every
can
day
say
leads to
some trigger, like some target words, he's going to react to it. And he's just going to be defending himself all night. He's been defending himself.
dedicated to making it the best it can be. Finding
And
solutions
then
for
he's
the
throwing out crazy accusations. And he's just over the top with fear.
solutions that help
Just wait, they're going to be killing everybody. Detroit, Connecticut, South Carolina, it's going to be horrible. Deaths all over, bodies everywhere. It's going to be fire. It's going to be worse, a disaster. He's just promoting and pushing fear.
The Biden's
Fear, fear,
budget
fear.
was
Once you
around
do that, you're not
$200
preaching anything about hope or getting better. You're just promoting fear. Elect me so I can save you from your fear that I'm telling you is coming.
This configuration on any budget. That's why we wanted it to partner with Jonathan years ago. You're looking at smart, it's a win-win. Win-win like that. Trouble finding time for morning news? Don't worry. We get it. With the Alarm Plus app, you can watch when you're scheduled. So the next time you're stuck in dark pool or hits news, don't worry. Alarm Morning News is ready for you. Download the free 11 Live Plus app now.
Trump already lost this election.
People are getting flooded with texts and calls seeking donations, but not all are legit. Hotspot with witness scams tonight at 11.
He lost the woman. He lost the women.
When it ends, please join us for
When
announcements
you
of
lose
tonight's
the women, you lost.
As we enter the final sprint to election day, we'll go back to the debate and closing statements.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis. Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I only have one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
So he just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all of these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they laugh. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
All right.
And welcome back to NBC News coverage of the debate. Pick your adjective. I would go with fiery to begin.
What you think, KB?
Both the candidates, you could argue, executing on their strategy going in for Kamala Harris was to get under the former president's skin, which she did quite often. For the former president, his option was, of course, to go after the economy, after Afghanistan, the administration's position on the withdrawal in Afghanistan, and immigration, of course. This is exactly what they want. The question is how they got there, and along the way, I think.
Well, people are going to be talking about this debate for a long time, and is this the final debate? Is this the only one we see? Will there be another? Well, it depends on how how each candidate feels they did tonight. Let's bring back our moderator, meet the Vice Crystal Lopez, and Washington correspondent Howard Jackson. We have a lot to do over here. Let's talk about, first of all, it does seem that Kamala Harris was trying to hit every trigger point she could think of to try to get Donald Trump to respond to her and just kind of fall into bait him into that trap. Do you think it was effective? Well, let's just name a few. Abortion, January 6th. His former officials who are now critical of him. John McCain, which is the big trigger point. One is one of the biggest ones that gets under his skin. One of his allies said she clearly tried to get under his skin. He's being defensive way too much. He's losing his answers. For example, instead of border czar, we had eating pets. Of course, that theory that Springfield officials in Ohio are saying there's no proof that undocumented immigrants are eating cats, something that we've heard from Trump and his campaign. And I think that allies are expressing concern about the fact that he didn't do what they were hoping he would do, which is to stay on message, to talk about strikes. There were some unanswered questions as well. It's worth noting out on both sides. Harris never answered whether you're better off than you were 4 years ago. She also didn't say what she would have done differently on immigration. Trump, by the way, didn't answer the critical question. Would he veto an actual abortion ban if it came to his desk? I asked J.D. Vance if Trump would do that. He said, yes, he would. Trump said tonight, well, he didn't check with me before saying that. So some differences there. Again, how is this playing with those sweet voters?
I think what Trump is saying to that you're monitoring.
I think there's immense frustration on the part of those with Donald Trump about the moderators. That is something that you sometimes hear after debates. I think that is certainly a through line here. There is some frustration, I think, from sort of one Republican who called former President Trump wild and uncontrolled and said that the vice president was successfully pushing him with his buttons and getting him angry. Another ally said, listen, she was doing what they thought she would do, avoiding the issues and going on attack against former President Trump. She did that, as you have laid out. She baited him again and again. We talk about substance and style being the two kind of buckets in any debate. If that's the style, you look at substance here. She was pressed on her shift away from some of those more progressive positions in a crowded primary. She says, my values haven't changed. And it wasn't just, of course, the issue of abortion access and whether he vetoed an actual abortion ban that the former president did not answer on. He did not discuss how he would implement one of his central issues on immigration, mass deportations, and he also didn't get into his plan to replace Obamacare, simply saying, I have concepts of a plan. He will be pressed on that moving forward. He also didn't commit to saying he wants Ukraine to be victorious in the war, so that was an interesting exchange as well. So she was trying to prosecute the case against him, but also present an affirmative vision of herself and what she might do in a term. So let's go to Tom Yamas, who's in the spring room for us. So Tom, I'm sure you're already starting to see people filter in. What are you hearing?
Yeah. Okay, guys, so it's still very early, right? Each campaign is getting their talking points out, making sure everyone's on the same message before they pour into the spin room. Some people are coming in right now. There's some Russian reporters at the entrance waiting for everybody. I can't tell you in the meantime, my phone has been blowing up. With both Republican strategists, Democratic strategists, and voters, I've been asking everyone what they think. It is a complete different shift change from that first debate. After that first debate, Republicans felt very victorious, very confident. They were saying the entire debate was about Joe Biden. This time, it's much different. Republicans seem very frustrated with former President Trump. They also felt frustrated with the format of the debate, which is never a good sign on your side. And then also saying that they were able, at least Vice President Kamala Harris was able to make this debate not about Joe Biden, not about herself, but about Donald Trump, and that led to her advantage. So again, many of the surrogates are coming in right now. Governors, senators from different parties. We're going to
Trump lost.
We got this video right now.
Not just the debate, the election.
Democrat representing the Harris campaign. Governors, thank you for being here. Let me first ask you, do you think the voters were served by what we saw the last 90 minutes? Served well, I guess. Look, I think the voters heard a lot and learned a lot. You know, one of the things I was a little bit worried about going into this debate is that some folks had a little brain fog about Donald Trump. They sort of didn't remember the chaos of Donald Trump's time in office. Well, I'll tell you what, I think Kamala Harris cleared that brain fog out, reminded people of the disaster that he was as president. And I think it was also clear as she was laying out a vision to take this country, Donald Trump didn't have a clear vision on where he wanted to go. Instead, it was more grievance and division, more attacks on other people. And Donald Trump, I think, will make our country less safe, more chaotic, and less free. And Donald Trump prosecuted the heck out of the case tonight. Kamala Harris prosecuted the case tonight. Pardon me.
Against Donald Trump. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. I thought Donald Trump toward the end finally got around to what he was trying to, hoping to accomplish, which is say, if you have all these plans and you have all this vision, Kamala Harris, you've had 3.5 years to do it. Why haven't you? So what is the answer to that?
She has served as vice president. She knows the job to be president, and now she has laid out her vision for where she wants to take this country. I thought she was very specific on her plans to cut taxes, particularly for small business owners, her way of trying to bring down costs for middle-class families. Donald Trump, I don't know what the heck he thinks. He was all over the place. I think what you heard was a
I
random.
told you he was all over the place. And he just told you.
He couldn't get past that, and he couldn't focus on anybody but himself. And that is serving the good people of this nation, something Kamala Harris has done throughout her career and has plans to do going forward.
Do you think that either will have an appetite for a second debate after this one?
Well, I think that will be up to either one of them. I'm not going to sit here and guess what will happen. But I'll tell you what, if there is not another debate, what the American people saw tonight was a clear contrast. A clear contrast in steady, future-looking leadership versus the chaotic, divisive leadership of the past of Donald Trump.
Governor Shapiro, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
We're going to hear from Senator Marco Rubio in just a moment. We have a few moments to turn back to our table. So what about it? It was just, it's clear that the Democrats and the allies of Kamala Harris are very happy with the way that she prosecuted the case against Donald Trump. But we know going in, about 30% of voters were saying, we don't really know who she is or what she's about. Do you think she did enough to define herself and make that affirmative case?
I don't. There were a couple of answers where she talked about her economic plans. It's the top issue Trump used her on that point. I think people still have a lot of questions about what she would do on the economy.
One interesting nugget by our team's count, the former president said the name Biden something like 15 times, didn't say Kamala or Harris once. She addressed that by saying, clearly, I'm not Joe Biden, but I think that's an interesting point, is where the former president stands at this point.
All right, let's bring in Florida Senator Marco Rubio. He's a surrogate for the Trump campaign. Senator, thanks for coming on with us. Did we see the best version of Donald Trump, in your opinion, tonight?
Well, two things. These candidates have very different objectives going on. Donald Trump, for all now, because the President of the United States has been campaigning basically for the last 8 years, 4 years, and 6. Actually, going back to 2016. Most voters didn't even know who Kamala Harris was. Tonight, for the first time, they got glimpses of it. Look, I don't think the moderators did the best job impressing her on this, but I think they got glimpses of what she has stood for as recently as 2019 and 2020. And it's here in Philadelphia, and here in Pennsylvania, she wanted to ban fracking. But beyond that, I think there are all kinds of things that the moderators never asked, questions that I wanted to see asked. For example, grocery prices were up 50% from 2020. What's your responsibility for that? I thought her answer on Afghanistan was complete nonsense. She was vice president at the time. Joe Biden didn't withdraw from Afghanistan. We were run out of Afghanistan. So on issue after issue, I think for the first time, voters are starting to get a glimpse of someone and starting to understand the positions that she truly believes in. We don't, she basically cut and paste, literally cut and paste out of the Biden agenda. People don't want the Biden agenda, but what she really believes in are the radical ideas that she ran on in 2019 and 2020. I think for a lot of Americans who don't know a lot about it, tonight they were introduced to those facts. I think that's going to have an impact on this race.
Senator, you just laid out the case against her pretty clearly. Do you wish that Donald Trump had done something?
Rubio is delusional.
I think he did. Unfortunately, like I said, look, I'm not one of these guys that likes to complain about moderators. This one was tough not to. I think it was really one-sided, and some of the fact-checking was wrong. There are, in fact, states in this country, the state of Minnesota, where a child born in a botched abortion is allowed to die, provided palliative care and allowed to die. So some of the fact-checking I thought was truly unfair, but on balance, as people heard things about, you wanted to take away guns from people in the past, you wanted the Bernie Sanders health care plan, you wanted to ban fracking, you wanted to bail out, trying to raise money to bail out rioters in 2020 in the summer. These are new facts that a lot of people don't know about Kamala Harris that they learned tonight for the first time. And I think, as you've seen in the polling, a lot of 25% of Americans wanted to learn more about her. They learned more about her tonight.
Senator Rubio, thank you for your time. We want to go to Kate Snow. She's been talking with a group of undecided voters in where else? Battleground, Pennsylvania. Kate, we've all been dying to hear what they thought and how they reacted to what they heard tonight. Yeah, Savannah, it's been really interesting watching with you all because I could see your reactions in real time. There were a lot of visceral reactions. In one word, if I can ask, how would you headline this debate? One word to describe what you saw. Well, it's 4 words. Same old, same old. Yeah. Manipulative. And Andrew. Lies on both sides. Okay. Lies. Wait, you came in all undecided. Has anything changed your mind tonight? Is there anything you heard here that you thought, oh yeah, I could go for that policy. I could stand with that candidate? Not really. For me, I think Kamala had a good debate. I feel more favorably towards her than to Donald, but I'm still not sure. Not 100%. The two of you women reacted very strongly when Harris was talking about abortion. When both candidates were talking about abortion, but you reacted strongly to Donald Trump and his positions. You seemed emotional about it, Hannah. Yes. What was your thought on that? What was it about that part of the debate that struck you? His misinformation. He sensationalized just so much facts or not things.
Yo. Okay. So KB, I think his camera went off, but you can clearly see this debate went one way and one way only. That was Trump's way. He took such a big L tonight. The Republicans are going to be mad. They should have never done this debate. I told them he's not going to beat a woman who's saying she's black. This is going to be a whole different thing than debating Biden. Biden is old. You can crack jokes on Biden all day. They do it on the internet. You ain't have to talk about any policies or nothing. You can talk about Joe all day. Joe's going, he's just an old man. He's old. That's what happens. So, but Trump is out. He lost his bad tonight. He lost bad. He looked bad. This is the first debate he's ever been in where he was beaten so badly in a debate. He got destroyed in this debate. It wasn't even close. He was flustered. He's fumbling words. He sounded like a child. He sounded like a 12-year-old. No. You did that. You guys were the worst ever. You were really, really bad. like it was awful. It was awful. She was just sitting there like, I got him. Kept him on the string all night. He was dancing on a string because you're dealing with a woman who prosecuted cases. You don't understand because you've never done that in your life. You've never understood how to really be in a real debate. You don't debate, you dictate. And this is the difference. You're reactionary. She knows it. You don't have the makeup of a commander-in-chief. She knows that. I know that. I've been saying that forever. You don't see anything about Trump that solidifies commander-in-chief. You don't feel safe with him. He's the opposite of safe. He preaches doom and wants everybody to believe the end of the world is coming every year. The end of the world is coming, and it's coming bad. We're all gonna die. He's that kind of guy. Imminent doom guy. How did she lose? What did Trump say to make her lose? Trump had no plan. He says, oh, I got concepts. Well, just wait till I get my concepts together. Just wait. I'm going to get my concepts. Just wait. We're going to have it all together. Just wait. It's coming. My concepts. So we got to wait on Trump's concepts. Then when it came to the abortion, he don't even know what his vice president. Well, I haven't really talked to him about that. We haven't really had a discussion, but it doesn't matter. He might have some different views than me. So him and his vice president are not even on the same page. That's another problem. The election's in less than 90 days. and you and your vice president don't even know what the hell y'all finna do in the plan. Yeah, he's trying to get elected for president to avoid jail. Again, Donald Trump talks about him. He's talking about him. 90% of the time, it's about him, not about America. Oh, I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't believe anything that she says. I know when she's lying, and she told a lot of lies tonight. But the thing is, she's going to win. That's just it. This is the first time in life they've ever met. She took command early she walked over to Donald Trump and shook his hand. She made him look weak in that debate. From that handshake, it was already over. She walked, what they normally do is meet in the middle. Trump was walking to his podium. He wasn't even walking up to the booth. She walked over there to his podium and shook his hand and went back. She took control. She was the alpha. That was unbelievable. This was a master class on the person who talks loud and talk all over the place is not the person that's winning the debate. He lost badly today. It was bad. And when they sit down and go over this, the Republicans ain't happy. I can tell you that now. They're not happy about what took place today. They're going to try to find a way to spin it. But Trump looked bad. He went out bad today. He took a big L. Roe versus Wade, the abortion, she had him on a string since then, and she didn't let him go. Every time they tried to ask him a question, I want to respond back to what she said. Can I respond back to what she said? That's not true. I did not do that. You're lying on me. That's another lie. That was her fault. Look, he was back passing the buck, passing blame, and she's just sitting back like, this clown. She's sitting back like watching the dancing clown like, I got this fool. It's unbelievable. All of y'all who believe Trump won, are you kidding me? You think Trump won this debate? Tell me something Trump hit that was amazing. The only thing he brought up was the immigration, which she avoided like the diplomat she is. She's prepared to avoid these questions. She's trained. You're not. Now, the issue on fracking, I told you, she's lying. She did not come out and say she's against fracking. And when the hell did she become a gun owner? I bet you her gun license probably came a week ago. I'm telling you, these people are masters at this game. We're gun owners. Like, since when did you get a gun? 2 weeks ago. They got a gun license right for this election because they don't want to piss off no group of voters. Now they're gun owners. Oh, my goodness. Why don't they talk about the crime bill from Joe? Because Joe ain't running. She's running. You running against Kamala Harris. The gun bill works good for Joe, but Joe's not in there right now. Joe's going to be out. Oh, I wish I could. KB would have to do that because this was on KB's chat. I can't pull you up or drop you down. Right. That's the best thing we got from Trump today was run, spot, run. It's about 4 lines. Her plan is only 4 lines, and it's like run, spot, run. I don't have any emotions in it because I don't like neither candidate. You see, that's where you guys are wrong. See, you guys keep saying I'm a Democrat. I'm telling you who won and lost the debate from a very safe space because neither one should be president of the United States of America. But I tell you who's gonna win, and it's gonna be her. She's gonna be the first female president. Trump ain't got a shot in hell. Then after this debate, now the whole world have to watch you come off as a misogynist live on the air when discussing Roe versus Wade and women's rights and what they want to do to their bodies. A lot of women voting. That's gonna sway a lot. There's a lot of women turned off by that. They don't really like Kamala Harris, but they don't like Trump telling them what to do with their body. And you talking about these things can happen and have an effect. People that don't even vote, females, they're going to make their first vote against him. He brought up the immigration, using them for votes, but he didn't hammer it home because he was just going all over the place like a child trying to defend himself. I mean, it was bad. I don't even know how anybody could watch this can sit there and say Trump won something. You must don't understand a debate because he's all over the place. Oh, wait a minute. Can I answer that question? Why she said that? It's like a kid. You said I got some ice cream and Johnny got those gummy bears and you ain't give me no gummy bears and then he got Skittles. I didn't get any. You promised me and I ain't get nothing. And I don't want to eat my food. You know, it's like all over the place. That's how Trump was. Oh, Taylor Swift has just endorsed Kamala Harris. So now Harris got the Swifties. Now the Swifties. Right after this debate, Taylor Swift has now endorsed Kamala Harris. And y'all talking about Trump won. He lost. And he made himself look real bad when telling a woman what to do with their body. Once a woman hear that and you trying to tell a woman what she could do with her body and a woman hear the way he talked about that situation, hell no. He lost right then and there. The rest was him just piling on to the damage. That's where the debate was lost. Right there. That Roe versus Wade, she hammered it home. And he was scrambling every time she spoke. He spent most of his time trying to defend himself from her statements rather than being prepared and having real questions of his own. He was all over the place, just thinking of anything he could just to throw back at her. And they were so all over the place that she didn't even need to really rebuke any of it. That's how far they were all over the place. It was crazy. "14-year-olds can't vote." Oh, you think that's all the Swifties are? Dude, it's a lot of them that's 18, buddy. And a lot of them going to be 18 by the time this election hit. And KB might have passed out. Absolutely, man. Great debate for Kamala Harris to let people know what she's in for. She showed that she was assertive. Her posture, her coming over to Trump, made Trump look like a beta from the very start, coming over to his podium to shake his hand, as he almost looked like he was trying to avoid coming near her. As he walked straight to his podium, she walked up to the middle to come shake his hand. And she came up to him and shook his hand like the alpha. The energy was done from there. Dude, I used to debate in college. I know exactly what this is. Firsthand. You guys have probably never seen a debate besides one like this. I mean, like real debate. You probably watched the movie The Great Debaters and all of that. That's why I'm so good at winning arguments. That's why I win them. I've honed that skill. And I was like, man, I had an actual knack for pissing people off. And me remaining calm, and I just had him on tilt. Yeah, I did it at a White Sox game. The White Sox was the world champions, and I was winning the argument, and the Cubs hadn't won anything. And the guy was like, he was like, yeah, but we won the championship. I'm like, yeah, don't nobody even remember it. Everybody, you ask anybody, they think it's the Red Sox. They don't think it's you. They don't think it's the White Sox. They think it's the Red Sox that won that year. Nobody cares. It came and went. When we win, the whole world's going to stop. And the guy's like, wait a minute. We just won the championship. How am I losing this argument? I'm like, you guys should just move to Aurora and become the Aurora White Sox. That fits better. Nobody wants you here. It's almost embarrassing to be a White Sox fan. Now, look, today, it's embarrassing to be a White Sox fan. So I'm very interested. Who's saying Trump won? I want to see what you guys got to say. I'm looking for those people that are saying Trump won. Tell me, what did Trump win? I'm very interested to see. Well, you said Trump won, so naturally you have my full attention. When people say Trump won, or I think Trump is going to win, or the narrative or whatever they want to put in place, I'm like, okay, you said it won. I want to know how you arrived at said point. Okay. Right. When you can control the debate, it's something different. And this was complete control. This was complete control of a debate. How is it trolling? What are you talking about? Imagine being a person that's chatting in the comment section and don't know what you're talking about. He said, imagine being a black man supporting a woman who put an innocent black man in jail. How pathetic. And I said, imagine being somebody who's texting in there who don't know what they're talking about. We're talking about this debate. Who won the debate? Putting somebody in jail had nothing to do with a debate. She won the debate. That's what matters here in this debate with her and Trump. Who won? And neither one of y'all can tell me anything Trump did. That's what I'm talking about. Chrissy said, I really didn't see a standout argument. The both ducked to smoke, both interrupted. She gaslit, he harped. So the Roe versus Wade, that you don't think she won that? You don't think she hit home on his failed policies, his failed negotiational tactics, what his plan, his proposed plan is going to do to the economy, and how is it going to affect the taxpayers, meaning you, and how much money you're going to be spending? That didn't matter to you? How she quoted that world leaders, the head of NATO, people in that organization, and the head of the military, they didn't like Donald Trump's policy, said he went over there and caved. You don't think she landed the fact that this man went directly to the Taliban, the terrorists? America don't deal with terrorists, but Donald Trump goes and cut a deal with them and doesn't even deal with the government, goes straight to the terrorists and say, you can come to Camp David. You don't think that's a problem? As an American, you think that's okay? That's not very patriotic. That's not commander in chief. That's let's cut a deal. Trump won the debate. No, he did not, sir. He lost very badly. The Democrat, Gavin Newsom just said it right. If this was a fight, Trump would have been TKO'd in the second round. If this was a fight. Exactly. He was out from Roe versus Wade. Once Roe versus Wade hit, he was done. He was spiraling ever since then. And that's the clips you're going to see the most of when she got on him about that. She talked about child care. She talked about all these target points that the American voters want to know about. People are paying a lot of money on child care. That's a lot of parents. That's women. That's a lot of women. And you're gonna see the power of the woman in this election. Trust me. Those women are gonna come out in droves and they're going to show Donald Trump, we don't like you. And that's going to cost him the election. Big time. He's underestimating the power of women, thinking men control a woman in the household, in conservative households. I'm trying to tell you, it's going to be a damn divide this time. A lot of women ain't going. You can vote for who you want to vote for. Because pretty much your mind was made up before the debate, most of y'all. So y'all voting for Trump regardless. So this wasn't going to tell you nothing. Trump could have been like stumbling and lost his voice. You still voting for Trump. Y'all was going to vote for him anyway. We talking about who won the debate. You can vote for Trump all you want. He going to lose. He's lost. Y'all just don't know it yet. So y'all just got to wait 90 more days to see him lose. I'm telling you, he gonna need something big to happen for him, buddy. He gonna be I just came home and I got shot in my legs, my arms, and my ears. But I'm miraculously healed. Did I learn anything tonight? Yes, I did. I learned that Kamala Harris and her vice president are now gun owners. They both got guns. They got guns. They got guns. Yep, Taylor Swift. She just went out there and endorsed. She said, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe a warrior needs. That's all the woman needs to see. Taylor Swift endorsing that is all over. That just confirms it. It's done. I believe we need a warrior to champion them. I think she's a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we are led by calm and not chaos. See? You see? Calm, not chaos. And when you got chaos, this is what happens. No. I mean, that's what Taylor Swift just said. I'm just telling you what I read her quote. What you saw in that debate was chaos. From the Trump side, panic, unsure, all over the place, ranting. Kamala Harris, calm, collective thought, diplomatic. And you saw another person who seemed weak, trying to give the illusion of strength. It was bad. I mean, y'all are probably young. Y'all don't know no better, but y'all just don't understand how bad this was for him. Trust me. His team is telling him how bad he did right now. The Republicans, rather. He probably said, hey, you did great. You hit on some key notes. No, he did not. She embarrassed him. And this is why they didn't want the debate. And he was smart. I said he should have stayed away from this debate. Do not debate that woman. You're not going to win. You cannot. Trump is not made to debate a woman. He can't. He's too misogynistic. He doesn't care. He has no respect for women whatsoever. I mean, this guy clearly Clearly. Now he's going to spend the next 48 hours trying to, like, they probably send him out to do damage control now. Now he's going to put a spin on the whole debate by go out and do some interviews. Yeah, he's in the spin room right now. Trump is in the spin room right now.
And we had it was very interesting. It showed how weak they are, how pathetic they are with what they're doing.
What I tell you? Trump's in the spin room.
And we had it was very interesting. It showed how weak they are, how pathetic they are with what they're doing to destroy our country and the border with foreign trade, with everything. And I think it was the best debate I've ever personally that I've had. We're getting polls that show 92 to 6, 88 to 11. We're having a lot of great polls that just came out. They're polls, I guess, phone polls, and lots of other polls, but you see the polls. A very important debate. Now, she wants to do another one because she got beaten tonight, but I don't know if we're going to do another one. The polls are indicating that we got 90%, 60%, 72%, 71%, and 89%. So the polls are very good, but beyond the polls, I felt they were good. I had a good time doing it. I hate to speak about our country so negatively, but that's what happened. They ruined our country. They destroyed our country. So I hope you're all having a good time. But it was a very interesting evening.
If you're so confident you won tonight, why are you here? Why not let the performance speak for itself?
Well, I think it did, but people said when I come here, and I made an obligation to a couple of people that I'm going to do this show. But it was I thought it was a great night.
Exactly. Why are you out here? Why are you out here if it went great?
Does that mean that it wasn't a good night? I thought the moderators were very unfair, but it basically was 3-on-1. But I thought they were very unfair, the moderators. Everybody did. But despite that, they're saying that the debate was. Yeah, I assume the moderators would be bad because that right there is the worst of all the news networks, in my opinion. And it always has to be. Well, she wants a second debate because she lost tonight very badly. So they immediately call for a second debate because they lost. So we'll, think about that. But she immediately called for a second. Look, we're looking at polls. The worst poll that we've had was 71 that I see. 71% to like 24 or 25. We'll look at it, but they want a second debate because they lost. I mean, every poll shows they lost. It was obviously 3-on-1, but I think we did that. Thank you. Who do you?
So, as you can see, he's playing spin doctor. He's coming out here changing everything up, lying, doing everything. Polls is already out saying he won. I told you. Y'all are something else. Y'all are here talking about he won and all this. If you won, you ain't out here doing this. They want to do a second debate because they love humiliating your ass. It's every time they debate you, they get stronger. So they like, cool, let's set up another one. Let's do another one. I debate you every week. You should have avoided this at all costs. This was not going to go well for you, and it did not. That's why you in the spin room right now, trying to spin the narratives. Now they were biased against him. The moderators. Those moderators weren't fair. Does that sound like a man who won the debate? If you win the debate, like the guy said, you let what happened in the debate speak for itself. Do you hear Kamala Harris out here talking? She ain't in the spin room. Trump out here working tonight. He working after the debate. He out there trying to get it in. That's what happened with Biden last time when Biden got smoked. Biden got smoked, and he had to go out there and play spin doctor. I'm telling you what it is. I'm telling you what I saw. KB, when he wake up tomorrow, he gonna do his breakdown. He might tell you, you know, he saw some things that Trump did that was great. He brought up things, but he didn't land his plane. He didn't land his point because he mixed it up in a pot with everything else. He was all over the place. You have to stay grounded and centered and landing on certain points. You had to make her talk about immigration. You have to make her talk about these things instead of just speaking on it. You got to find a way to, well, he's got to learn some debating skills real quick to get her to speak on these issues. And all of this preaching, fear, fear, fear. He gives you no ramification of hope. If I'm in office, I'm going to make it better. How? I got to get in the office first. I got a lot of concepts. Concepts? Well, I got a lot of concepts, you know, but I got to get in office first. Well, you were in office. How did that go? They're weak on the border, but when he had 4 years in there, he was supposed to be building a wall, and what happened? We didn't get the wall. We had people start some construction and never, ever materialized. He was just sucking money into a plan with nothing really happening and coming out of it. I don't think the Democratic Party is going to call me a Kamala sympathizer, especially after I told her today, her team and her camp, because they sending out a campaign before they sent out a message today. I sent it to Kwame. They asking for money for the campaign. We're getting ready. We got to try to raise $250,000 before the debate. I'm like, well, she better call Willie Brown. So I don't think I don't think I'm on team Kamala. I don't think they got me on team Kamala. Yeah, I don't think they like me too well. All right, because I asked y'all who won the debate, and y'all couldn't even tell me who won the debate because y'all so caught up in emotions. Y'all talking about Trump. It's Trump. Trump ain't done a damn thing. I'm not voting for Kamala, and I'm not voting for Donald Trump. That's who I'm voting for. I'm going to be voting in the other elections. I'm going to be voting for those judges. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of people on that ballot. You got to start voting for these judges. You got to start looking to see what these judges' conviction rates are. Yeah, start looking into that. Start seeing what's really going on out here and get involved. Because I'll be like, okay, you want to overturn these decisions? See, we don't be knowing, so we don't be really caring about it. Most people don't even vote for those other offices. They go in there and vote for president of the United States. And they go, okay, all this other stuff I can care less about. I'm out. And they go. Some people go in, they vote straight Democrat. They don't care what it is. They go right in there. Democrat, Democrat. Who is this? I don't know, but he a Democrat. And they just do it. Me, I actually want to vote for the best candidate. And right now, neither one are the best. Trump definitely ain't what's good for America. Kamala Harris, she's definitely poison. She's a manipulative liar, and she's very skillful at it, like she did tonight. Like she was skillful talking about fracking. She was very skillful. Illinois for Trump. You think Illinois is good? Trump only think he's gonna come here to debate. After that debate, he was out of here. You know, Illinois. You kidding? Why do you think they had the convention here? You think they imagine losing a state you had your convention at? No. This is the land. What is Illinois? What is our tagline for the state of Illinois? The land of Lincoln. We ain't got nothing cool like the show me state. No, we the land of Lincoln. And they don't mean continental. This is a totally blue state. So understand that first. Then you can go to the next thing. Illinois is the suburbs. The suburbs of what? Because the suburbs of the United States? Are you crazy? Because Illinois is the state. Most blacks been turned. You know how many of those people are? About 12. So you think you really think, man, you're gonna be shocked at the polls. You the one that's gonna be surprised when Kamala Harris is the president of the United States. Y'all gonna be stunned. How did this happen? I'm gonna be like, go back to the debate. Trump is in the spin room right now. Trump is in the spin room right now. She sent that dude to the damn spin room. Trust me, people know when you lost. That's a sign you lost the debate. If I don't even need to say nothing else, Trump in the spin room right now. You know anything about a debate? He in the spin room trying to get his points off. No, this is what it is. And she did this, and she did this. They be like, look, wait, you had a debate to do all this. Why are you doing this now? Because you done got your ass whooped on national TV. Trump ain't never took a whooping like that. See, he used to battling Joe. He could make Joe look bad because Joe old. You're on number 2. You're on 3, Joe. Yeah, he liked to battle Joe. That's why he didn't want to battle Kamala. Like, wait a minute, I don't want to battle her. Let's stick with Joe. Joe was where it was at. But no, things went left. So vote for who makes you happy. But there's no way I'm voting for her. And why do they keep lying about the war? That was a very key thing there. The Ukraine war. The Ukraine war is happening because of Russia. That's another thing that he's going to lose. A lot of the Polish people are very upset about what Trump said. And what she reiterated was tell the 800,000 Polish Americans that's over here in Philadelphia how you plan not to protect them. And if you get in office, Putin can just go ahead and attack Poland. Now, Polish people who see that, like, whoa, he's going to do that. They're not going to vote for Trump. So she's getting and recruiting votes. What Polish person listening to that going to vote for Trump after that? He better watch the movie Get Hard with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. That's going to be Trump future right there. Man, you got to get hard. I got to get hard. You're going to have to get hard, man.
Karen, for this.
Yeah, you read my mind.
Yeah.
I hate the damn thing. I wanted you to get rid of it.
I thought you were going to get changed.
Yeah, go get changed. He said I clicked the link. I'm still here. Oh, I thought I was gone. Shouts out to KB. Thanks for having me on. Absolutely. I'm trying to figure out how do I stop this thing. It is still rolling. Okay, there it is. All right, I'm out. Shouts out. I'll see you, Outlaw. Don Corleone, all the rest of y'all that came through. Subscribe to Kwame Brown Bus Life, Carcino for Life, Onecraknews, Ticket TV, Damn DPOV. We up out.